two powerful stories. One of a city under siege. If you watched any movies of ancient armies battling each other, toppling city walls, burning towns. And in the middle of that, Jeremiah signs a deed for land somewhere that's being destroyed right now, trodden over, crops being burned or stolen. This is my land now. I'll pay abundantly for it. So we're going to be worth a lot one day. All of those people in the court must have thought he was out of his mind. But the truth was that, land would be bought and sold again in Jerusalem, outside of Jerusalem. Seeing things in the light of eternity can help you not to get caught up in the hysteria, the pandemonium all around you right now. People who have lived and seen wars, people who have made it through calamities, they have a perspective that I think can only be earned by going through it yourself. You care about your actions. You care about how you treat others. You care. In the light of eternity. That's what matters most. And in this parable that Jesus teaches, I find myself, as I often do, in the place of the rich man, or the religious leader, or the person who has the resources and the esteem, some sort of power and authority. I find myself there. I often do. And it's my prayer I never find myself sharing the same perspective as this rich man, who was distinct from the majority of Israel, an entire people occupied by Romans, who had days when they went to bed hungry. But not him. He ate. He ate every day. He feasted sumptuously every day, while his neighbors starved. He wore fine clothes made with purple dye, which was extracted from the mucus of the murex snails from the sea. That purple dye was often reserved for royalty, like Caesar royalty, because it required thousands of snails to be harvested from the sea and an inordinate amount of labor to extract and process the dye to make clothing the color of Tyrian purple. There is no reason for anyone to dress in purple other than to display to everyone around you that you can afford it and that you would rather pay for this purple garment than for your townspeople not to starve. It's like sending a rocket ship into space, taking a joyride into the stratosphere, while your employees are lining up for food stamps to supplement their income from their full-time jobs, where they don't get to rest or take bathroom breaks as often as any of us would want to. That extreme difference between the rich man and everyone else is astounding and not at all surprising. The rich man didn't associate with people who were poorer than him, didn't have empathy for them going through their struggles, decided, I'm going to get this purple garment, I'm going to get another purple garment next week. Lazarus was not sharing his table. He wasn't allowed in the house. He was outside the gate, far beyond the rich man's orbit. And this morning I wonder what that rich man from the gospel reading would think of all of his wasted hours when he found himself passed over by the angels and buried instead, shocked to see Lazarus go to be with Abraham. No rapture for him. This reversal of fortune may sound strange to those who live by today's metrics. If you're blessed today, shouldn't you rightly believe you'll be blessed forever? If God favors you for eternity, why doesn't God favor you while you walk the earth? Doesn't seem right. You do the right thing. Why doesn't it work out for you? You care about your neighbor. You give to people who are hungry. Why isn't it working out for you? But this reversal of fortune provides hope to those who are suffering, to those who don't see themselves in the position of the rich man. Maybe their fate isn't written in stone. Maybe they too will receive blessing. God will make it right, even if they die in poverty. And in the time of Jesus' telling a story like this, might have provided some hope for Israel, a people in a country longing for liberation from Roman occupation, from overtaxation. Not the kind of taxation that we have. We don't like paying our taxes. We don't like it. But the kind of taxation that leaves you with nothing. Little left remaining for the people to subsist on. They were threatened by cultural imperialism, losing their identity by an occupying force that desecrated their temples. They still remembered when the Greeks came and slaughtered pigs on the Holy of Holies altar. They had little to hold on to. They were dehumanized. And they endured humiliation and poor treatment. But perhaps they could trust God to raise them into everlasting glory, because God would make things right in the end. Even if you don't see it, even if you die before things are made better. That's what the apocalyptic literature is all about. The book of Revelation, it's about things getting worse before they get better, and they don't get better, but at the end of history. It's because for centuries, the prophets of Israel kept telling Israel, it's going to be better, just keep loving your widow, orphan, and alien among you. Keep taking care of them. Remember the covenant that you've made with God. Things will get better. And they didn't, time and again. We read the prophecies that are written down by Isaiah and Jeremiah and Baruch, and they keep making a promise that no one seems to be able to find or locate in their lifetime. And so when Jesus speaks, he says, don't hold out for it. Don't let that keep you from doing good today. Don't insist on your part of some bargain. Don't abandon what power you have to make someone's life good, to care for your neighbor. Because in the light of eternity, that's what matters. And after you go through calamity and experience war, how you treat others, how you form them, how you train them, how you equip them, how you keep them safe, that's what matters. We do want God to make things right. We still want some sense of justice. We don't just want to keep doing what matters. We want to see the people who refuse to do right learn some sort of lesson. And so we might expect Abraham to agree, for some reason, with this rich man, that someone should be sent to warn all the remaining rich men to care for the poor at their doorsteps. Right? We want things to change. Why wouldn't Abraham bother? That way everyone will be better off, even the poor would profit. Where's the harm? Why wouldn't God warn all the rich men, all the billionaires, that they are doomed to suffer, just like Ebenezer Scrooge, for the avarice and their lack of empathy? And the judgment which Jesus passes is voiced by Abraham, their father, in the parable. If they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead. It's not like Christians all of a sudden are better at caring for their neighbors, the poor, the orphan, the widow, the stranger, than everyone else because we profess faith in someone who rose from the dead. We're not. We're just as self-interested as everyone around us. We proclaim belief. And we believe that we'll be delivered into life everlasting. But so many so-called Christians, so many people have bought into our country's version of faith. It's a counterfeit faith. It's demonstrably false. People refuse to listen to Christ's own call for generosity, the one that rose from the dead. They worship and glorify him on Sundays. They look at his portraits and his stained glass windows. But they don't care about the poor the way that Jesus did. Think of your neighbors. Have they ever balked at caring for the destitute? How many of them have cheered on the shuttering of USAID? All of the work around the world. I think I heard somewhere the former director of the health programs for USAID said that just in the past 6 months, about 200,000 people have died because they've lost the services that were being provided in 6 months or something. And then compound that year after year, millions of people dying in poverty, in misery. And how many of us cheered it on, getting rid of waste? Or what about the paring back of Medicaid and the people who won't be able to get health care? And they're going to suffer in their poverty. Or the reduction of SNAP benefits and all of the children who won't have as much food at home. How many of your neighbors would be appalled to discover that their close friends and relatives will now have a harder time making ends meet in the years to come? How many of us would rather live in ignorance of the poverty that is so close to us? We can always say, well, it's people on the other side of the world. I don't mind them suffering. I'm sure Jesus would be fine with that. But my neighbor, that would be terrible. I couldn't stand that. This hits home for a pastor for this reason. It reminds me of a story from a youth minister who was caught off guard once. for me, in between years at school, I spent a summer making repairs and building homes alongside youth groups and their grown-ups who traveled to a small town of Hedgesville outside Martinsburg, West Virginia. And every week I equipped students in yard cleanups and painting rooms and roofing porches and building sheds and things like that. And we were very graciously hosted by a large church, which had enough room to feed and shelter about 200 youth and chaperones all season long. And the youth ministry of that church was thriving. They were great. They had a praise band. They had, kids just filling the pews and singing. And the youth minister was very involved, not just in the youth ministry of that church, but also in our efforts. He was supportive in every way. He was a good man. And so he appeared to me to be shocked when he learned that we were going to spend a month at the home address of one of his high school students. He seemed to me to be ashamed to learn just for the first time that she lived on the side of a mountain, off a dirt road, at the bend of some switchback, with her parents and several brothers and sisters, in a one-room dwelling about the size of our Sunday school room. It was made out of bare cinder block with exposed roof rafters and a dirt floor. I spent a month there. It had no electricity or water. She was the recipient of county-provided meals at her school. Her mother received SNAP benefits every month. Her father worked with his hands every day, but their family was mired in poverty. And the girl had gone to church, a few times a month for several years. The youth minister thought he knew her, thought he was saying meaningful words, helping formative experiences for this kid. And he had no clue what she was dealing with, what her reality was. He was ashamed, like a chasm between them, between the rich man and Lazarus. The disparity between his life and hers was laid open. As a pastor now, I understand what he was feeling. And I would be deeply ashamed to find out that people don't feel comfortable being themselves in front of me. If someone didn't want me to know what they were going through because they thought I would look at them, with judgment or with apprehension, with distance, view them with suspicion, I don't know what, but people, if they didn't feel comfortable with me as their pastor, I would feel ashamed. And it must have taken him just a second to figure out how he could be a better pastor to her and her family, because that week he rallied the church around this girl. And he found ways for the whole congregation to donate time and labor and materials to wire electricity to the house, to build out flooring to frame out the living space, to add insulation and drywall and paint, and donated home goods. When he faced what his neighbor was going through, he shifted all of his priorities, all of their programming plans or whatever he was planning to do that summer, and those of his congregation to meet a need that was, up until that point, unimagined. He didn't go out and buy another item of purple linen. He didn't say, let's have another feast right here. He changed. And that, to me, is what God can do. God can work in us to change the lives of others. And it can lead all of us to reflect, what is God's plan to right the world's evils? Is it God's plan to partner with some country to be on its side and exclusively its side, to win all wars and defeat all enemies? Is that what we should pray for, that God would help us to dominate our rivals and grant security and prosperity? Is that how God works? Not according to Jeremiah. After Jesus was crucified, did some king of Israel ever deliver them from the Romans? No. What alliance between empires would save Jerusalem from destruction? Nothing. No power on earth could be called upon to aid them in their distress. What power should we place our trust in? The Bible is clear: to trust the Lord who redeems and restores all things and makes things right, somehow, in the fullness of time. Not on our schedules, not on demand and at our call. The Lord, who lives from everlasting to everlasting, will outlive every empire, every king, every president, every political party. So should we keep placing our trust in the ones who will fall from power and fade from history? King Zedekiah, Caesar. Or should we call upon the Lord, not for our own will to be done, but for our wills to be conformed to that of the one who made us all and who dwelt among us? The one who knew our frailty, the one who died out of a depth of love we will never comprehend, and who rose from the dead so that we would have life and have it to the full. Will we place our trust in him? And you know, some people do and some people don't. But it's my prayer for you here today that you would be convinced for all your life to leave your comfort behind, to bring comfort to those who have less than you. And on that far off day, when you do find yourself looking back at your deeds and your decisions, my prayer is that your heart may be filled not with agony but with gratitude, as the people you have comforted dwell alongside you in the glory of resurrection. Will you place your trust in that one who calls us today and every day of our lives to bring justice to the oppressed and to protect the so-called orphans, widows, and strangers of our time? I pray you will, and I invite your response.